Damon Martin MMA fighting here with Anthony Showtime Pettis. He makes his return to action next week in his second fight in the PFL. Anthony, welcome back, man. Appreciate you doing this.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. So, Anthony, I don't like to live in the past too much, but obviously I haven't had a chance to talk to you since the last fight. It didn't go your way, but what a freaking battle, man. I mean, obviously you had to endure some early shots in the first couple of rounds. You hit him with a head kick and a flying knee. I still have no idea how he survived that. Kind of give me your thoughts looking back on it, man. That was a battle.
Yeah, man, it was a great fight. I mean, let's go before the fight. Going into my first time at the PFL, we had to go into a 17-day quarantine, so it was like a lot of new stuff for me, man, going into that fight. So I was getting my mind wrapped around just the new league, the new system, making weight back to 155. There's just a lot of things at stake in that fight that I'm glad it's past me. I made weight. I made the weight. I fought the fight. I wasn't happy about my performance just based on how technically I looked. I was very bad technically. Like I was in my my southpaw stance, traditional stance. I was trying to kick too much. Without making excuses, a lot of things that I did in that cage was I wasn't present, man. My mindset was just like thinking about too much shit. I was thinking about, being the face of this company, winning, getting 6 points. Like I forgot to be in that cage and like actually address the fight that was in front of me. He bought a very basic game, not talking shit, but his game was like, very solid, straightforward, a lot of boxing, good hands, good kicks, good cardio, but nothing I haven't seen before. It was just like, man, it just happened so fast. It just reminded me of like the RDA fight where I was just like, man, everything's just happening so quick. I don't have time to make adjustments. And I don't know. It's like I'm glad I get a chance to do it again this quick. Like 7 weeks ago, that performance was, and I get to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to ask you though, honestly, about that third round. Were you shocked that he survived that? Because I rewatched it about an hour ago as I was getting ready for our interview, and I'm like, I don't understand it, man. You've knocked out a lot of people with that head kick, and then the knee. I'm like, that dude. I still don't know how he survived.
Yeah, if I fight him again, I'll definitely attack his body, not his head, because dude has a freaking guy out. Because man, the kick was good, but the jump knee, man, that landed flush right on his. He was just taking a shot, so it's like impact on impact. Usually that's lights out. He had a great game plan, man. Honestly, like before the fight, I wasn't like I watched his fights. I wasn't like, and I'll be honest, I wasn't like impressed or like I wasn't thinking like, damn, this is going to be the fight that it was. But MMA is a crazy sport, man. Anything can happen out there. I'm just glad I get a chance to do it again. I'm still in this thing. My work's cut out for me. I have to go out there and fight another tough, undefeated guy. But I feel like this time I'm more mentally here, present.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that because so much of your UFC career, and I know we talked about this before the season, a big benefit of PFL is that you're not sitting around waiting and dealing with time off and booking a fight months at a time. Were you happy that obviously you were disappointed with that fight, but you don't have to wait 4 or 5 months to get back in there. You're 7 weeks later and here you are already back in the cage.
That was the best thing about it. Like after that loss, I was definitely pissed, but like, knowing that I had to start a training camp, I had to let go of that. I couldn't live in that fight. And I can't live in the future of this next one. I had to like see what mistakes I made. And that's what I did, man. I went back to Vegas. I started working with a boxing coach to get my basics back. I feel like I was making a lot of just dumb errors. Like I think I get away with a lot of stuff in sparring because I'm so athletic and so good. And then when it comes to these fights, I got to be on my A game. I got to be on my details because everything matters in these 15 minutes. So I went back to Vegas, got a really good boxing coach that just helped me with my basics on my structure, my footwork, movement. So I think this fight, you're going to see a whole different style of approach. Also, the cage we're fighting in, I never fought on that surface before. It's like it's not canvas, it's like vinyl. So I've never fought on vinyl before. I've trained on it before, but it's super slippery. So it's not the best place to have a kicking mindset. You got to like pick your kicks right. You can't like just throw them out there. So I'm going to change that up as well in this fight.
Yeah, again, you're not making excuses, but it was almost like a culture shock, right? Like almost like a culture shock in a way.
It's a learning process, man. Like, I performed the way I performed and that was on me, like I went out there, but like technically when I break it down, that's what I'm talking about. Things like that where I could just be more prepared for it and just better, look better as a fighter. Cause I know I'm better than what I showed.
Yeah. Now I was seeing on Instagram, you mentioned your boxing coach, Jorge Capetillo. I know he's worked with Tyson Fury. He's worked with a lot of good guys. How did that connection get made, and how has it been working with him?
Yeah, I actually I knew him for a long time. Actually, Jorge Linares is a friend of mine, and I would go watch him train. And Capetillo was one of his trainers, so like I would watch him, warm him up with the pads, and I just liked the way he broke it down because I think he does Cuban style boxing. Cuban style, if you're familiar with it, is like a range. They play the middle range, but they also have the head movement on the outside of the angles, which I think translates good to MMA. So, the basics and the footwork she was giving with the Cuban, plus like just the rules that I just forgot. Like, I know so much stuff. You kind of just like, it's hard to show it in 15 minutes. Like, you're like, all right, what should I do? Should I do Taekwondo? Should I do boxing? Should I wrestle? Should I do jiu-jitsu? It's like a lot to show. And this time around, I feel like I'm going to bring it back to the basics. So like, let it build up and let it find itself the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. Everyone always talks about your kickboxing, and obviously you've always shown tremendous kicks, but you've always had incredible hands too. You know what I mean? So I'm sure working with the boxing coach like that, you kind of sharpen up the hands a little bit, right?
And you know what? It's crazy. Like I just forgot about it, man. Like I just haven't done it in so long. Like I definitely box, but like the box to boxing, like for boxing sparring, but to put boxing in mixed martial arts, it's a different set of rules, a little games that you got to play because their takedowns are coming, the knees, the elbows. It's like the rules you got to change. And I knew him before. It was just working with him to sharpen them up, and then Duke, is here with me now, and it just translates so well because now we're working on the finishing part. I got the front part. Now we're working on the finishing part.
Yeah. Now you've been in situations like this before, Anthony. Obviously, you've been a champion. You know what it's like to kind of face the toughest challenges. And here you are in this one. It's kind of a weird one because obviously a lot of people believe you were going to be season champion and picked you to win that first fight. Absolutely nothing against Clay Collard. Now, again, you are a bit back against the wall. You got to win here. I mean, it's win or go home, for this season. Do you approach that any differently? Do you embrace that pressure knowing that, hey, listen, I got to deliver here or, I'm out of the tournament. There's just no other way around it.
It's weird. I felt more pressure from my first fight. Like I was like, I'm the face man. I felt like that fight I was like, like more nervous for. And like, I gotta do all these things. This one, I have the right mindset. I'm like, I'm gonna go basic. I'm gonna start basic. I'm gonna let it build itself up, and I'll find it.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you know about Alexander? What do you know about your opponent? Because I wasn't as familiar with Alexander. I watched his last fight. Obviously, you mentioned he is undefeated. Good record. Hasn't, again, and it's not a knock on him. He hasn't faced the kind of competition you faced throughout your career. But again, you never know what's going to happen. So what do you know about him? Obviously, I know you're more focused on yourself than you are him, but what do you know about him?
I saw his last fight. He fought a tough guy. He showcased a lot of good stuff. Good jiu-jitsu off his back. I think he comes from his dad comes from a Taekwondo background, so I'm sure he has some kind of Taekwondo in his training. So you see that flashy front leg round kick, decent wrestling. He's a bigger 55er, so I think it's they have some talent in this place. Like we're all here together for 17 days. This time was 12 days, so we get to see each other. Like this, the bubble is talented. There's some talent in this bubble. So I'm just gonna go out there. Like I said, I can't go like I'm gonna knock this guy out with a jump spin hook kick. Like I gotta be like, all right, let me up, slow it down, and then when it happens, it will happen.
Yeah. Do you obviously skill for skill? You're the favorite going into the fight, but we also know there's a magnitude of it, being in a main event and fighting Anthony Pettis. Now, because I heard this for years with guys fighting Anderson Silva. When you go in against Anderson Silva, guys would go in and they were already intimidated. You're fighting Anderson freaking Silva. There's going to be a bit of that with you as well, Anthony. Obviously, you're a champion. You're a legend. You fought everybody. Again, no knock on him whatsoever, but this is, his first truly big fight, if we're saying it like that. Do you not say you expect that, but will you look for that kind of deer in the headlights look if he's not quite there in that first round? Will you see it, and can you kind of feast upon that?
Yeah, yeah, it's fun that you say that, but like I got to start creating that again. I feel like I already have that boogeyman, going in there. They don't want to be put on a poster. Most guys that fight me is like, man, I can become a highlight reel, and feeding into that highlight reel too much. I'm forgetting like the jabs, the cross, the low kicks, things that make the highlight reels happen. I forgot to like focus in on that. So I think I'm going to, obviously I have that Showtime presence already, but now I'm going to focus on hurting him with my jabs, hurting him with my little punches, my low kicks, and then let the big moves pop up. So I feel like creating that is my job. I have to hit him with some shots that's like, oh, dang, that's why they call him Showtime.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we saw a couple weeks ago, Rob Font had a great fight with Cody Garbrandt. Everyone's talking about his jab. I remember for years, everyone said BJ Penn had the best jab in the game. And it's funny, jab is such a basic move. but it's so effective, especially in MMA. When you got an effective jab, it sets up so many things. Obviously, you've got good range, good distance, and good reach. I imagine you start working that jab to basics. Then you said you lead you to the highlight reel knockout.
Exactly, man. I forgot. Not that I forgot that. I was just forcing the highlight reels, and I was like trying to do the cartwheel kicks and these fire exchanges. Like I should have calmed it down, switched from southpaw to orthodox. My good stance when my hands are well, my defense is good. Build up from there, and then switch southpaw when I win that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I know in no way, shape, or form are you looking past this fight, and I'm not doing it either. But because of the way the PFL is formatted, you win here, you move on to the playoffs, and it's going to be 4 and then the finals. Is there any part of you, I imagine there is, that hopes that you do get to see Clay Collard again this year? Because you mentioned all the things that didn't go right in that first fight. I'm sure you would love to rectify that. But, and again, you get to do it sooner rather than later. You don't have to wait 2 years. You get to do it maybe in like 3 months or 4 months.
It's amazing, man. Yeah, I think, like I said, honestly, Clay surprised me with his skill set. He came out there to fight. So I feel like he's going to do well in this next fight too. We all got to perform. It doesn't matter what you did in your first fight. But yeah, if I can see him again, which I think I will, playoffs or finals, only 4 advance and then 2 advance. So it's very likely we'll see each other again. I just got to get this win. So that's all I'm focused on is getting this, my hand raised this weekend, next weekend, and we'll move on to the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be fun because we saw it. I mean, listen, we talked about before the season with PFL. There's no guarantees. I mean, Natan Schultz was a 2-time champion. He lost his first fight. There's no guarantees what this playoff format is going to look like. And again, I know you got to beat Alexander. You got to get there. I know obviously a lot of people are picking you to win this fight, but like I said, this is going to be an interesting, again, one of the things about PFL that is so much fun is there's no guarantee. So that playoff, I said Clay Collard, there's no guarantee what we're going to see, but I have a feeling you guys are going to cross paths again this season.
I hope so, man. And I think, yeah, it's crazy. That's what's cool about this, like being in this, being part of the first one, 17 days doing the quarantine, being part of that, and then jumping right back into, because we had to be here 12 days out. We only had 7 weeks between the camps, between trainings. So that only gave me like 5 weeks of in between fights. It's cool to know that I'm durable enough to do that. Man, I went ahead of war not too long ago, and I'm right back at it.
Absolutely. Now, before I get you out of here, Anthony, it's funny. Before the season started, we talked. Because you're a striker, you come from that kickboxing, boxing background, and everyone always thinks about you at the knockouts. Last time we spoke before the season, I talked to you about your boy Ben Askren was fighting Jake Paul. Now, unfortunately, things didn't go Ben's way. It is what it is. Now it's Tyron Woodley. It's like the entire the entire Rufus camp is going to end up fighting Jake Paul. Now, Tyron's in a much different situation than Ben. No offense whatsoever to Ben. Ben's an incredible athlete, but he was never a striker. He was never a boxer. You know T. Wood very well. You train with T. Wood for a lot of years, and I'm sure you guys have sparred a lot of rounds. Give me the difference of what a T. Wood versus Jake Paul fight versus a Ben Askren Jake Paul fight is going to look like.
Well, not a fight, a boxing match. Because if Ben was fighting Jake Paul, that'd be a totally different outcome. But like a boxing match. So Tyron Woodley actually trains boxing. Like he didn't for the first time just like jump in and try to jumping in a ring and try boxing for the first time. Like Woodley's been the Wild Card gym. He's been to the gyms in Vegas, training with us in Milwaukee. So he actually has experience boxing sparring with some good guys. But saying this is like, it's weird for me to say, but Jake Paul actually has some okay skills. Like he's not a new guy. He's not like 2 weeks into a boxing gym and fighting MMA guys. Like he trains for this. You can see he has a structure. He has a little rhythm. He has like a little bit of the science down. So it's not like he's a brand new guy coming in. Like that one in the Ben fight, I didn't really know. Like I saw him fight Nate Robinson. I'm like, all right, that's a basketball player. Who knows what he really has? But like when he squared up with Ben and set up the good shot with the jab, he knows some skills. So like it's not like a brand new guy fighting Woodley. But that being said, Woodley's knocked out Robbie Lawler. The list goes on who Woodley's been in there with. So I feel like striking wise, he has more knowledge when it comes to boxing than Ben Askren does, obviously, because he's done it before.
Yeah. Will we ever see? Then again, your focus is right now, PF. Will we ever see Anthony Pettis do a boxing match? Is that something you'd ever want to be interested in doing?
Yeah, man, for sure. I think now that all these MMA guys are getting their shots to do it, and why not? I'm a fighter, bro. I grew up. The reason why I got into mixed martial arts was boxing. De La Hoya, Trinidad. I'm half Puerto Rican, half Mexican. When that fight happened, my family was like, my dad's side, my mom's side, we all watched at the same house. I would never forget that as a kid, bro. I was like, dang, I wish I was them guys at that time, watching them fights. And then mixed martial arts found me. So it's like, that boxing got me into MMA pretty much.
Yeah, it's funny because I think Tyron's got a much, much better chance against Jake. Obviously, he's got huge knockout power, and we've seen him. He stood with guys like Wonder Boy, who's an incredible striker. Obviously, you faced him before as well. So I think he's got a much better shot. But it's funny, all the guys that you get in these boxing matches, I'm like, why is a guy like Anthony Pettis? Like, you are a striker. This is your background. This is what you've done in your entire life. Like, I'm not saying this is a knock on T-Wood because I think he's got a great chance of knocking out Jake Paul. But I want to see a guy like Anthony Pettis in a boxing match because that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I feel like Jake's smart on who he's calling out. He went for Ben. Ben's a big name. He was killing guys before the UFC, obviously. So he's a good name in mixed martial arts. So I think he was smart, going that route. But he does have a guy who can punch on his hands this next fight. So I'm excited to see.
Absolutely. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time, and hopefully the quarantine's not driving you too crazy. Second time around. Can't wait to see you back in action next week, man. Look forward to seeing it. And thank you so much again for taking the time for me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Always. No problem.